Okay.
Hello and welcome to our first premiere special segment of Style Speaks. I am your host, Ronald Byrd, and this show is presented to you by the Proof Modeling Agency. And I wanted to get right to our guest because we don't have a whole lot of time and we could spend all day with this guy. I want to announce our guest for today, and he actually really needs no introduction because anybody knows what this guy does and how talented he is. But his name is Derek Rutledge, and he is celebrity makeup artist and entrepreneur. I want to welcome Derek to the show. Welcome, Derek.
Hey, Ron, I'm happy to be here. I'm ecstatic. I was listening to the opening of the show, and I was dancing to it and grooving and having all kinds of fun. And I want to say thank you. Thank you for inviting me to be a part of this and to find out that I'm the premiere of first actual guest of your series. So I appreciate that. Thank you so much.
Well, you're welcome, and I appreciate you accepting. Absolutely, because I know you're a busy man, and trust me, I got the end of that. It was like, Ronald, I don't have time. I got this. I got this. I got this. So I am so
No,
glad you squeezed.
I make time for everyone. I really
No, no,
do,
no,
and
no.
you know that.
I'm joking, but I just know you're a busy man, and of course, obviously, you are, and I appreciate you, carving out some time for us today. So let's get right
Not a
to it.
problem. Mhm.
You're a man of many talents and an exclusive artist in many dimensions. And I wanted to start with just sort of how you came to realize your sense of artistry, because I know you draw, you paint, you do makeup, you do photography, you do a lot of things in the art realm. So where did that all kind of kick in for you initially, where you kind of thought that this was the route you wanted to take, professionally?
Well, you're right. I'm a man of many. You know how they say, jack of all trades, master of
Right.
none. I've mastered a lot of everything that I do.
Yeah, you have.
I put my best foot into everything I do. So I'm a master of a lot of things. But when it comes down to doing makeup, my story is goes back so far. But I know we don't have time to get into the meat of everything. Well, to talk about everything. So let me get into the meat of it. When I was in college, I actually started taking photography classes, and during my photography classes, I noticed that the women that I was photographing, because one of my electives was to photograph women and men in different scenarios, and I noticed that they weren't looking like a lot of the pictures that I would see in magazines. I mean, I would go down to the local drugstore, and I was be in the magazine aisle, looking at all the beauty and fashion magazines, and visually picturing how beautiful everyone looked. I'm talking about Naomi Campbell, Chrissy Turlington, all the women back during the '90s, late '90s, the models. And I always wanted to know. I always would take, being in college, you don't really have the money that you really want. So I would always, don't tell anybody, but I would take and tear the pages out of the magazines, and I would buy one magazine that I taken and stuck them inside of
Right,
the
right,
other
right.
magazines, so that I could actually take them, and I would put them up I had like a board on my wall, and I would take and I would draw those pictures and everything, and then I would take the girls that I would actually photograph, and I would try to make them look like the models um, that they looked on in the magazine. And I noticed that I was really good at it. And then after the photo shoots, the girls would go and let their friends see exactly what they look like. And then I started getting all the girls around the college to wanting to get their makeup done. And what that did
Mm,
was that was actually preparing myself for what was to come. I didn't know what was to come, but it prepared me for what was to come, as far as learning face shapes, learning face, different ethnicities and things like that. And
hmm
throughout college, I was just doing all kinds of girls' makeup. And then once I graduated from college and moved back home to Washington, D.C., because I went to school in St. Louis at the
hmm
Webster University School, and that was an art school. And once I graduated and came back home, of course, being out of school, you're looking for work. And I worked my way up to being a actual uh, director for an NBC affiliate station in St. Louis. And when I came back home to DC being a major market, I wasn't able to get work. And they said, well, you would have to start all over again, and work your way up at a cable company. I'm like, no, I had a position at a good position, and I don't feel I need to start all over. So what I did was I took my knowledge of beauty and fashion from college, and I started incorporating it into going to fashion shows here in the DC area and introducing myself to a lot of the producers that were doing fashion shows here. You know, the Black Caucus fashion show and different producers that had their own individual shows. And then I let them know I'm a makeup artist. And they said, okay, we'll give you your card. We'll reach out to you and contact you whenever, you know. And so I started getting calls from these producers asking me if I could come in and do fashion shows. And because of the fact that I had the knowledge of doing those other girls, I was very knowledgeable on doing all skin shapes, skin colors and textures and things like that. And then I remember doing the fashion shows for the Howard University show. And I really, at that time, I accepted a job, but I couldn't afford to bring anyone in because I was doing it basically for a cab ride there. And I said, well, and I accepted it because I said, as long as I can get on stage, because I'm also now, am I good at doing makeup? I'm very good at promoting myself. So I said, as long as you put my name in the program, along with my number, along with letting me walk the runway so that I could let people know who the person was behind the name, and I'll do it. And here it is, you know, I was an overweight kid that, you know.
Well, before I don't want to cut you off, Derek. You give me a lot of information, but that you know, before you get into the weight piece, because I have a question for you about that.
Oh, you do? Okay, well, I'm gonna let you. I get excited.
I know where you going. We could probably talk.
I like to share my life with people, so I get excited. I don't want to overstep. Let me let you finish.
You know, it's okay. I've done a lot of research, and I've read a lot of your. I've done a lot of research, and I've read a lot of articles about you, and looked at a lot of your videos. So I do my homework. But I wanted to touch on the weight piece in a second. But you know, in reference to all the art that you're known for, I mean, you actually trained to be an opera singer as well. I wanted to touch on that real quickly, and then kind of transition into the weight piece and how that affected your ability to transition into this field where it may not have been an easy transition, or you may have been rejected because of the fact. Or I wanted you to share a little bit about that before we go into our next segment.
Okay. When I think back on it, Ron, it upsets me. It helped me in one aspect. It upsets me in other ways. It helped me because it was up. It took me to decide it's time for me to step out. Because okay, I worked at BET. I was known as the big guy in the makeup room that beat face. You know, that's where I got to meet all the celebrities. That's how I befriended so many celebrities when I was you know, in the late 90s, because I was there for about 5 years doing the makeup for, if you think of any girl group from the 90s, late 90s, I was SWV, Brownstone, Destiny's Child. That's how I got to meet Beyonce and them. I was doing Lil' Kim, Aaliyah, Queen Latifah. That's how I got to start doing Yolanda Adams, Shaka Khan, Patti LaBelle. You name any artist back then that came through BET, I did their makeup. And but I had the last cubby hole there were 3 stations, and I always took the last one because at the time I had blown up to 580 pounds, and it was just easy for me to, you know, sit on a stool and do makeup and just have, you know, and actually have people to just come in, get the makeup done, go out, and I had an assistant that would go out on the set and keep them touched up. I was comfortable with that. But then when BT decided to move from DC to New York, I love New York, but I didn't like New York for living for me. So I decided I would stay here in DC. And once I made that decision, I knew I couldn't hide anymore in the makeup room. And it was time for me to step out and let people know that I'm here. But then I was getting a lot of rejection because of my weight issues. And I decided that I would bring in the new millennium in 1999. I'll never forget. I wanted to bring in the year 2000 with the new me. So I decided to have gastric bypass surgery to lose weight. And it wasn't until people started seeing me with the dramatic weight loss that people said, "Oh my God, I'm so proud of you. You know, I'm glad you didn't decide to make this decision to do this because," and this is coming from a lot of the celebrities I work with, because they said that it was a lot of directors and producers that did not want to, they always had a second, they didn't want to hire you. They didn't want to bring you in because they were scared you have a heart attack on set. They didn't want to have to pay for 2 seats on the plane. I was always, going through this process, I was scrutinized, all the time. People never knew that I went from one diet to another diet to another diet. I tried liquids, I tried everything, but nothing was working. I mean, I would lose the weight and be on one program, but as soon as I was switch from that program and go to regular food, I gained the weight back plus. And that happened, all the time. And I didn't use the gastric bypass as a way of getting an easy way out, but I needed it as a way of living my life, as surviving and being able to live. And once that happened, like I said, a lot of producers said that, we turned you down for so many jobs because you were a risk. And I found out from a lot of the celebrities I work with that they told these producers that if it was not for the fact that if they didn't push hard for me, then I would not have gotten a lot of jobs that I got. So I love the fact that they looked at my talent first, my heart and my talent, but the fact that I was so talented, they pushed for me to get a lot of these jobs that I got. So I owe a lot to the celebrities that I, befriended that pushed hard for me. Patti LaBelle, I traveled with her for many, many years. Yolanda Adams, her album covers, CeCe Winans and Shaka Khan. And it was because they pushed hard for me that I was able to really get the notoriety that I did. And then also, doing a lot of these fashion magazines and hair magazines. And I love doing the work. I've always loved working hard, and I've always worked hard to prove myself because of the fact I do love my work. So kudos to all those celebrities that pushed hard for me.
Absolutely. Wow. That's pretty, I didn't know all of that. So I'm glad I got you to tap into that. Hopefully that wasn't too emotional, but I can see where, because it built you, it created, it just formed you and shaped you to the man you are today, that everybody loves and respects. So before we go into our next segment, let me see if I have enough time to squeeze this in. So I did mention the whole singing piece, and you were singing before we started on this afternoon. So what became of the why singing opera, and why didn't you? I mean, I'm not sure how much of that you're still doing, and if you plan on recording, but kind of sort of what took you in that direction to want to sing.
In elementary school, I always, like I said, I grew up singing. I used to, I grew up hearing, I went to church every Sunday religiously. I grew up in church. I was in every choir in the church. I've always had a pretty voice. It's always been pretty and clear. And my music teacher in elementary school, Mr. Byrd, he recognized my talent early, and I would always lead a lot of the songs when I was in elementary school. And then my father wanted to incorporate uh, an instrument, and I always wanted to play piano and violin. He had the idea of me wanting to be saxophone, and he made me play trumpet. So I would play trumpet, and I would sing and play the trumpet at the same time. So I've always been one that could, multitask.
Right,
And
right.
they noticed early that I loved to sing. So throughout elementary school, junior high school, I would always sing in all the programs. And I would grab different girls and different guys to sing duets with. I would sing Stevie Wonder. I was in all the uh, musicals that they had. I was in Dr. Dolittle. I was in Flower Drum Song. I was in every musical there was. So music has always been in my background. So when I applied for school, I wanted to go to an art school that incorporated the music and the academics. And Webster University was very well known for being a wonderful art school. And it also was the one that obviously gave me the biggest, uh, the most money to attend the school. And
Okay.
so it was easy, in order for you to train your voice, you basically are learning your scales. Do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do. You're learning your scales. You're learning breath control. You're learning how to use your diaphragm, which also helps with your speaking on stage. So which is why it's always easy for me to come and speak because I use my diaphragm whenever I'm talking to someone or when I'm on stage. And so music was a way of comforting me. It was a way of releasing me. It was a way of, even when I'm doing someone's makeup, if they want to be quiet because they want to, work on their script or whatever, I'm singing in my head. So music has always been a way of calming me, keeping me, grounding me. And it also, it's just, it keeps me, it pushes me. So, and I love all types of music. I love, especially gospel. Like I said, growing up in the church, I always loved gospel. And Mahalia Jackson was a big influence, in my growing up. But then, of course, the Winans, the Yolanda, Shirley Caesar, which are all people that I got an opportunity to do makeup on, the Clark sisters.
Mm-hmm.
I could go on and on and on, Ron, but I've done a lot of people in my
Yeah.
career, in my 30 years of doing makeup.
Wow. Well, you don't look about a day over 31, so I don't know how
I
that's possible.
appreciate
But
that.
anyway,
I appreciate that.
yeah,
But yeah,
yeah,
this
yeah, yeah.
year I entered a new decade. So
Okay, okay. Well, I think
I
I'm
entered a
not
new
sure if
decade.
my producer is going to let me know if we're supposed to be taking a break right now, but hopefully he will let me know. If not, I'll just move on.
It's
And
not a
like I
problem. You can
said,
always edit it down.
no, 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 no. I just got you. Look, you're used to being interviewed. I'm used to doing the interview, but what an interviewer typically a lot of times interviewees will just kind of go and their stories will kind of connect and attach. It's like, wait a minute, don't talk about that yet. Don't talk about that yet. That's a part
No,
of
I
my next
understand.
segment. So it's like, okay, don't say too much. Don't say too much. So
Okay,
so
okay, okay.
anyway,
You
I
know
just
what
wanted to
it
make
is?
sure.
Because I've done so many interviews and because I
Right, right,
watched
right,
so many people do interviews,
right, right,
I
right.
always kind of anticipate what the
Anticipate what
question's
they're
going
gonna.
to
Right,
be.
right, right.
And so I'm
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
okay, I know what question's probably going to come next. So let me go on and answer it for
yeah.
them. So that's how I
So
do
they
it. And
don't have to.
I shouldn't do that, but I've watched some of the best do interviews. So I try to do that. But that's taken away from you being on camera. And I don't want to do
It's
that.
quite all right. I've been doing style. It's not, it's not new to me. I'm used to it, and it's funny because a lot of times you have to pull things from guests, and they'll just answer the question one, two, or three sentences, and then they'll wait for you to ask the next. But I like when people kind of help you along and do what you do. Then I could just scratch that off my list. But like I said, I think we can go ahead and take a break right now, since I'm not getting a message from my producer. So, but I think we're at our point where we can take a break. So let's do that. and see if you
Okay.
can see
And
if
I'll
that's
see
on
you
cue.
on the other side.
I'll see you on the other side, my man. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to segment 2. This is Ronald Byrd, and another segment, actually our premiere show with Style Speaks with our special guest, Derek Rutledge. Derek, we got you back on. You're staying for another segment. We didn't lose you yet.
Of course. I'm here for as long as you need me.
I appreciate you, brother. I appreciate you. So we'll get right to it. So I really enjoyed that first segment, but I really wanted to kind of hit to the star power effect. I mean, you work with a lot of amazing, influential, powerful, famous women, and people like Yolanda Adams, Patti LaBelle, of course, Oprah Winfrey, the First Lady Michelle Obama. And I guess I wanted to ask a couple of questions. I wasn't trying to be too messy, but, we talk about, having all these wonderful people in your chair. And I know you've done makeup for men as well. So I wanted to get, your comments on just maybe some issues or some problems you may have had with some celebrities and doing their makeup. Some may want to talk too much, or some may want you to talk, or they may have halitosis going on, or they may be passing gas and they not saying nothing. What can you tell? What's some of these things you had to endure? What's some of these things you had to endure with some celebrities? You don't have to give no names, but it's got to be some challenges you have to deal with sometimes. You know what I'm saying?
You're never going to get a name out of me. I know. I can tell you that for certain. You'll never get a name out of me. But I have had to deal with some of those issues before, especially breath. Especially when you deal with clients that will drink coffee, and and I can always tell when they drink coffee as well as smoke. Those two.
Right.
It's a very bad combination. But the way I would handle that is I would have them. I always kept my Altoids on my station, and I would eat one myself, and I offer it to them, and they would say, "No, I really don't. I'm going to continue to just drink my coffee." And there have been times where I would say, "I insist, that you do it." Hopefully, they will get the hint, and sometimes they've actually taken the hint. But those that don't, what I'll do is I'll be doing the makeup, and I'll sit there and I'll be working on their faces, and then I would lean over, breathe in, hold my breath, and turn back over, and I smile, and I would just hold my breath and do the makeup, and then I lean over again, very discreetly, and I would let that air out, and very slowly bring the air back in, hold my breath, and I will continue working. I've had to do that on several people, but
oh my goodness,
when it comes down to me, handling this situation, I'm very easy. I give a lot of myself. I come in there with the expectation that I'm giving you not only a good service, but I'm also giving you my heart. And that's the one thing that a lot of the celebrities, whenever you hear an interview where they've talked, where my name comes up and they have an opportunity to talk about what I've done with them or who I am, they all seem to say the same thing. And it touches me at my heart that all of them have basically echoed the actual same thing, and that I come in there, I'm very sweet, I'm very nice, I'm very good at what I do, but I leave with with everyone falling in love with me. And that's what's really good to know that and then I usually surround myself with people that are the same way, because I can't do this by myself. I have a good team of people. I got good, good graphic artists. I've got a good manager. I've got all kinds of makeup artists and hairstylists that work with me to edify me. And by me edifying me, it helps me to edify them, because my empire has grown exponentially because of the fact that I, can't be, if I could split me up in different pieces, I could, but I can't. So I try to get makeup artists to come in and mimic what I do, or at least take some examples of what I do, so that they can upgrade what they do, so I can actually send them out on jobs. And that's the way that's also giving of myself, because there have been so many situations where I've had to bring in a makeup artist to do Patty when I couldn't do Patty because I had to do Shaka somewhere, or I had to do Yolanda, or I had to do Cece. And so what I had to do is I bring them in, have them watch what I do so they can see exactly what it is I do, so that the client can be comfortable with me not being there, and actually know that once if I'm not there, you're still getting a piece of Derek. Gotcha. So it's, there's a lot to me. There's like I said, my career has been a 30-year career so far, and I could not be here without having a good team of people behind me to help push me.
Absolutely. A good team is very, very important. I definitely stand by that as well. I need a good team. I got a great team. My executive producer, the one we've been dealing with all morning, he's my number one. That's my go-to guy. To kind of keep in sync with the whole star power piece, like I said, I've done a lot of research, and I've listened to a couple of your interviews, and I know you kind of shied away from this whole comment or this rumor that when you had worked for, or how you began working with the First Lady, that it was, you had to audition and whatever the case may be to win that spot, and it was for a certain amount of time, and then that was done.
Right.
But the word on the street was that Oprah came in and swept you up and stole you from the First Lady. So I ain't trying to get all messy or nothing. I don't know if all that's true, but how did that, I guess, to talk a little, and I know it's I'm being funny, but at the same time, that was a great transition, and then a big transition, obviously, to work with both, and how Oprah, kind of got you after that process with the First Lady.
Well, first of all, let me break that rumor. Right. If you like you said, you did your research, but what Oprah did say was she always gave the First Lady. She always respected the First Lady. She always gave her first dibs on using my services. She said that because of the fact that she found out about me through the First Lady, even though it really isn't all the way true, because Oprah has known of me for many, 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 many years, because I would come to the Oprah Winfrey Show doing makeup for Patti LaBelle on quite a few occasions, on different celebrities that would come and appear on her show. I would come in as their makeup artist. So Oprah has known of me for many years, from doing makeup for many of the other celebrities that would come on her show. But she always told me, when I did start working with her on a regular basis, I asked her why she never did want to utilize my services. And she said, because word on the street was that you belong to Patti LaBelle, or word on the street was you belong to this celebrity or that celebrity.
Right.
And so that's what she said, but she always said that because she saw the work I did on the First Lady from the Time magazine cover and from several of the covers that I, was doing her makeup when she first started, she wanted to know who was the makeup artist that had come in and had given the First Lady this confidence, because one thing about when you're doing a woman's makeup, if you work with them and you give them a look that they're happy with and they're comfortable with, it makes them look at themselves differently and it makes them carry themselves differently. And that was the one thing that Oprah and a lot of people noticed, was that the First Lady was she was starting to get really good at doing fashion, photo shoots. And that came from me standing behind the camera of the photographer and showing her how to do all kinds of poses and doing all kinds of different poses so that she could be more comfortable. And then once she started getting comfortable at doing that, then it was easy for her to transition into doing her photo shoots and me not really being there. But the one thing Oprah said she noticed was that she was looking differently. She was carrying herself differently. So she auditioned me herself to come in and do makeup for her. And during that process, when she said, well, how can I get to work with you as well? And I said, well, you and the First Lady are good friends. And between the two of you all and your people and her people, I'm sure it can happen. And it did. It worked really wonderfully for about maybe 3 or 4 months, but both of them had very grueling schedules. And
right.
It was hard on me because during that time, I also was dealing with the fact my mother was going through her illness of cancer. So it was dealing with that. It was dealing with having to be on that first plane, that in the morning to have to fly to DC or to fly to Chicago, being on the last plane out to fly back to DC. And I was back and forth between Chicago and DC quite often, and it was getting too much on me. So I had to come up with a decision on which direction to go. And the First Lady, and we talked about it, and I've been there almost 3 years, and it was just time. It was time for me to move on. I'd given of my services and for 3 years, and after 3 months of doing the First Lady and Oprah at the same time, it became too much. So it was a very friendly transition. They both, wished me well on the transition, and here I am with Oprah 10 years later. So
wow, that's amazing. That's a pretty cool story. That's a pretty cool story to benefit them both. And I'm a big fan of course, the First Lady, and super big fan of Oprah.
Yeah, they both are wonderful people. I learned a lot from them. They always pushed me, rooted me on. Even to this day, they both do the same. They have helped me with molding who I was. I've always been, molding me into wanting and pushing to do even more and more for myself. So I give it to both of them.
Wonderful. Well, I'm glad for you. I'm happy for you. You deserve it. All right, man. Well, let's take another break for our last segment, and we'll come back in a few seconds and wrap this thing up. How's that, brother?
It sounds wonderful. Like I said, I'm here for however long you want me here.
All right, I got you. I'm gonna cut you loose real soon.
No problem.
All right, brother. All right, man. And welcome back, everybody, to Style Speaks. I am your host, Ronald Byrd, and we are here today with celebrity makeup artist and entrepreneur Derek Rutledge. He's been hanging out with us for a few segments now. This is our final one. We're going to cut him loose and let him go home, let him go eat, let him go do what he got to do. But we loved having him here with us today. I know I
And
enjoyed
I
myself.
loved every moment of being here. I really am.
I appreciate you, brother. I appreciate you. I owe you dinner and a whole bunch of other stuff. Building an empire. You have a lot of things. Obviously, we talked about how you got started in the industry. Your singing, all your talents, and what you do, and how you teach. You talked about in the last segment, bringing on other makeup artists. So you obviously teach, mentor, and all of that. So you mean a lot to a lot of people. But in moving forward and talking about the big picture is what I like to talk about. Obviously, this has all put you in a position to do many, many things with your craft and your businesses and your entrepreneurship. So I wanted to give you an opportunity to talk a little bit about, I know you have an eyelash line or whatever. So you got a few things in the irons in the fire, businesses and things that you're working on. Why don't you tell us a little bit about that, and I'm going to shut up.
You're doing a pretty good job of promoting me, and I appreciate that, Ron.
Yes, sir.
Well, of course, I have Derek Rutledge About Face. That's the umbrella. That's the big umbrella of who Derek Rutledge is. And incorporating that is makeup artist, hairstylist, stylist that helps to edify my whole vision, which is perfecting your presence. Perfecting your presence is my seminar that I travel the country with. Well, pre-COVID, I was traveling the country with that seminar where I would bring, coach women over a 2-day course where they learn how to give vision to what they want to look like. You see, every woman has the adage, if you look good, you feel good. And a lot of women want to feel their best. And that's the one thing Oprah said when they interviewed. I'll never forget that quote. And I use that in a lot of my, stories that I tell people. And she says that every woman wants to feel pretty, and every woman wants to feel pretty, wants their prettiest day. Let me say, everyone wants her prettiest day, and Derek knows how to make her have her prettiest day. And that's the whole thing behind PYP, Perfecting Your Presence, is that women want to feel good about themselves. They want to know that when they walk out on a stage, if they're working at if they're the president of a company or they're in the boardroom, they want to know that they present themselves in their best light. And a lot of women always say that they would, if they knew how to apply their makeup, if they knew what the proper clothes were to wear, if they knew what, the right hairstyle that fit their faces, then they would, pay for that. And so what I do is I bring in myself along with a team of other experts that I work with, and we give a whole day, 1 to 2 day seminar on exactly how to do that. Well, during COVID, it had to change from being there physically to have to doing it online. So it's going from physically being there to actually bringing the women together and bringing your whole kit together, and then we go through your kit and we actually show you how to apply your makeup, what hairstyle to wear. So it's now being done online, but that's what PYP is all about. And then during COVID, because women having to wear masks, the whole campaign was, how do you make an impression? You make it, especially if you're wearing a mask, and that is through your eyes. So I decided to come out with my eyelash collection, which is a 28 pair of lashes. And what I did was I divided into 3 different segments. A very natural look, which is the lush to pret-a-porter to my sheros. And I try not to forget any age group. I have the baby boomers all the way to Generation Z for the girls that you see in the stores that have the lashes that are about 10 inches long. I didn't forget
Oh
them
my
either.
goodness.
So, and those are called Shiro.
Okay.
So I
Okay.
covered the
No
entire
comment. No comment.
gamut,
No comment on those.
the entire gamut. But I have to, if I'm a businessman, so I have to
Yeah.
make
Yeah.
sure that
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
that I include every age group when it came down to choosing the lashes. And it was during this process of doing the lashes that I was approached by, well, I submitted the lashes to Oprah and her team, and I ended up being in Oprah's favorite things list for 2020
Oh,
for
cool.
2020.
Cool.
So that was a big help, and that was also
Yeah, that's a big thing. Yeah.
kind of her, because people say, well, of course you work with Oprah, you're going to get that, but no, I had to submit and go through the process like everyone else. And I was just blessed to be able to be chosen. And it was during that process of doing all these interviews that I've done that people were saying, well, we hear about all these people that you've done makeup for, and we hear that you've been doing makeup for quite a while. And you're talking about you've been doing makeup almost 30 years. Well, exactly how old are you? Because you don't look like the age you are. And so I would admit to people how old I was,
You started doing
especially.
makeup when you were 2. I got it. I got it. When
Yeah,
you
and
were 2, I
I
got
know. But people say, well, what are you doing? What are you using in your skin? And I let them know that I came out with a skincare line many, many years ago, but I really couldn't promote it the way I really wanted to, because we didn't have social media back then, when I was having to go to trade shows and carrying, product from trade show to trade show, and then flying in people and playing for hotels. And, it was a lot of work, where it's much easier now. And so people say, well, whatever it is you're using on your skin, we will actually, we want, bring it back. Will you bring it back? We'll buy it. So I said, yes, of course. So the first thing that I'm going to be launching of that skincare line is my skin serum. So that'll be coming very soon, within the next maybe month. That'll be coming out, because I wanted to have something that I actually use on my skin, that actually helped
right.
me for many, many years, because I've been using it for over 20 years, even though I started taking care of my skin while I was in high school. I've always been into skin and Benjamin buttoning myself, and
Right.
everybody say,
Right.
well, how are you aging backwards? And it's because I take care of myself. I drink a lot of water. I take care of my skin, and I want to share share my secrets with everyone else. So that's how this all came about. So it was the PYP, the skincare, the eyelashes, and it's more to come. There's a lot more of Derek Rutledge and Derek Rutledge About Face, on the horizon.
Okay. Wow. Well, we need to find out when now that's launching, and how to get connected with you, Derek. I just want to say it's been really a pleasure talking with you. We've talked over the phone before, but I've never actually interviewed you. So
Mm-hmm.
hopefully you had a great experience. I had a great experience, and I can't thank you enough for being our premier
I
guest for Style Speaks. And I mean that. I really mean that.
I
I
really
you
love
you
this
just don't
interview.
understand. No. Let me just finish this. You don't understand when I was talking to my executive producer about who we were going to get, and I saw one of your posts on social media. I'm like, no, he's not going to do it. No, he's not going to do it. So I did my homework. I looked at your other interviews. And I'm like, he's not going to do it. So when I reached out to you and I asked, and you said yes, number one, I was like, oh my God, he said yes. But I have been so excited. We've been planning this for over a month or so now, because I'm an organizer and a planner. So I have just waited for this opportunity to sit and talk to you. And I really thank you from the bottom of my heart for doing this. Thank you so much.
I appreciate, I don't take anything for granted, Ron, and I appreciate you reaching out to ask me, because, when in this industry, you can be looked over, many, so much, you can be looked over. And I, people say, well, Derek, you don't realize who you are. You don't realize your power. It's, and I guess I don't. I grew up with my mother always saying, let other people speak of your good works. And so I've always let other people speak of the good things I've done, from the weddings that I've done. I mean, I've done so many weddings that now a lot of the women that I literally started off doing weddings for many years ago are now calling and asking me, can you now do makeup for my daughter? Because they love the pictures of my wedding when you did them for my wedding. All the Howard University fashion shows, the models, the celebrities. When I look back over my life and see pictures that people, throwback pictures of me when I was, like I said, 580 pounds standing beside Maxwell, looking like, three of me and there's Maxwell. Or when I was doing Lil' Kim and looking back at pictures that people had posted of me when I did Lil' Kim back when, in the late 90s, when she put out her first album. When I look back at my life, I've done a lot, and which is why I'm working on my memoirs and a book, and what I'm trying to do now is I'm trying to organize all my thoughts. I'm trying to organize the pictures, because there's a lot of Derek that I forget about until people, remind me. So there's a lot more to come. There's all kinds of surprises and all kinds of things that I'm going to be presenting to people. And I appreciate the fact that you were able to ask me to be the first guest on your series. That goes without saying. And your producer, who was kind enough to help through everything that we went through to make this happen, I appreciate him as well. So thank you all. Thank you to what it is that you're trying to achieve with your platform, and inviting me to be a part of this. I appreciate it from my whole heart. I really do.
Thank you so much, Derek. Well, that is it, because I don't want to start crying. So that is it for our first premiere episode of Style Speaks. My name is Ronald Byrd. This is presented to you by the Proof Modeling Agency. And until the next time, we have another good show coming up real soon. Stay in touch via website, the www.proofmodelingagency.com/Style Speaks. You can go up. We'll post all our new and upcoming things that want to fall apart now. Upcoming videos.
Is it possible that I can give people how to follow?
Oh, yeah. I wanted you to give your information out too. Go ahead, Papa.
I appreciate that. Thank you so much for this opportunity to do that. You can always follow me on Instagram at Derek4 Makeup. That's Derek, the number 4, MKUP, or Perfecting Your Presence on Instagram. And the websites are the same, Derek for Makeup or Perfecting Your Presence. And the website is Draft Online, which I'm sure that you all can put that in, hopefully can include that in there.
Yeah, that'll be in the credits, baby. We'll put all that in the credits.
I appreciate that. Thank you so much, Ron. I appreciate that.
Absolutely. Well, thank you very much, Derek. And until the next time, sayonara. We're out of here.